Welcome to Soulfull Wellness. We're Kit and Kaelynn, certified wellness coaches who know firsthand what it's like to feel perpetually unwell in body, mind, and relationships.
That's why we created this podcast, to bring you practical guidance and share our deep, dark secrets so you too can heal inside and out. Join us every Thursday as we embrace living from the soul. No trends, diets, or one-size-fits-all advice here. Welcome.
Soulfull Society. We talk a lot on this pod about the concrete elements of your wellness wheel. Things like nutrition, fitness, relationships, work-life balance, and sleep. But what we don't always talk about is an equally important part of your wellness wheel, spirituality, which involves faith, letting go, energy, and trust.
The goal of developing your spiritual self is to be able to achieve self-actualization and self-transcendence. Self-actualization is basically being the best version of you, allowing for fulfillment of your personal potential. Self-transcendence is expanding beyond the boundaries of oneself, seeing yourself as an integral and interconnected part of the universe. These are both concepts that nourish and even define our health. Oh, I'm so excited to get into today's topic. But before we get started, a few friendly reminders.
Would you please be so kind as to follow, if you have not done so yet, and rate and review this podcast? And feel free to share this episode with a friend who you think would enjoy our content. Let's get to the heart of it.
Perfect. So this episode is for you if you are having that intuitive sense that something's missing, or maybe you've been experiencing significant anxiety for a while now. Maybe you're doing all this work to change your habits and behavior, but you feel this nagging sense of unfulfillment or doubt about your journey. If this sounds a little bit like what you're going through right now, a boost of your spiritual self may be in order, and we are here to help.
I know that if I have that slightly unsettled feeling that something's missing or I'm forgetting something, it always is. And it drives me crazy. It can be just a little thing like I actually forgot my keys, and then I get to the car and I'm like, oh, that's what it was. It was this little inner knowing telling me I forgot my keys. Or it can be something bigger, like my spirituality is being neglected, and it's time for me to focus in and spend a little time prioritizing my spiritual self. Mm-hmm. Even when I've got all the other things, okay, I'll be honest, they're not all going all at once, but whatever I'd been focused on in a pretty good place, there's just something in me that just doesn't feel settled. It's like a tickle in an uncomfortable way, and it's not strong for me. It's very subtle, but it's just this, you're missing something. And I'm like, what? I swear, I did all the somethings. For me, that means it's time to focus a little more attention on my spiritual self.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about the nagging feelings, even that our bodies are sending us, those signs and signals that something isn't quite right. And we've talked about a lot of the concrete elements of your wellness, and it can be especially daunting or make you feel doubtful when you feel like you're checking those boxes per se in your physicality, and maybe even your mentality too. I'm doing all the things, or I'm doing the best I can right now, but there's just something that feels not right, or something that's missing, or I'm feeling a big sense of doubt or dread or existential crisis or quarter life or midlife crisis. Something just isn't right. So I am so particularly passionate about this topic. I'm so excited to get into today's episode. I wouldn't say I'm nervous, but there is a little bit of anticipatory jitters just because I feel like this is a side of me that close friends and family know. And we've really only touched the surface on this podcast. So we're so excited to share with you our experiences, some different tools, some practices, and just a soulful conversation around spirituality and how you can cultivate it for you. And I think one of the most important things to touch upon is that it looks different for everyone. So of course, we're not here to give you a one-size-fits-all picture, but we're here to hopefully talk about and shed some light on some concepts that'll help you walk closer towards your higher self and hopefully gets you to a place where you can see some inner peace and start to cultivate a stronger sense of self and inner knowingness and, of course, intuition.
Well, I think that's a huge part of why you and I shy away from this particular topic. Although, yeah, all wellness is personal. That's the whole point. You have to develop it for yourself, and it changes as you grow and change. Spirituality, even more so. You really have to dig deep within yourself to figure out what's going to work for you in this realm. Mm-hmm. So it's particularly challenging to do it as a podcast episode put out to the masses.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
This is a topic that we can really dig into in a coaching engagement. Mm-hmm. That's one-to-one, and you develop the trust in the relationship to really explore deep under the layer and then under the next layer and into the next layer. And we're going to give you later in this episode some tools to try to help you get there and guide yourself there. And we're going to share our personal experiences, because sometimes when you hear these things, you're like, yeah, but what does that really mean? Or what does that really look like? So what we can offer in that realm is what we've experienced.
Mm-hmm. I think a big component and theme of cultivating your spirituality is learning to let go, which is really hard.
Yes.
And I think most of us are practicing that on a regular basis, no matter how strong your sense of spirituality and intuition is. Letting go is challenging, but it really is the core and the theme of cultivating the spirituality. It helps you get in touch with your intuition. It helps you tap in energetically to other people, to the world, to how you're feeling. You know, a lot of the times we've talked about how to cultivate stronger personal relationships, and a lot of that has to do with listening and those different levels of listening, right? Level 1, listening to respond. Level 2, active listening. And level 3, being able to listen to your surroundings and tap into invisible things. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, is tapping into those energetics and invisible things that are really impacting your entire well-being.
Letting go is particularly challenging for perfectionists. Mm-hmm. Part of being a perfectionist is control issues. I have serious control issues. I also have trust issues, and a big part of spirituality is the letting go and trusting in the soft landing, in the safe space. Here's where I can attest to feeling the challenge. I get it. I've lived it. But if you can let it happen and take that scary release step, maybe it's not even full letting go yet. Work up to it. Just release the tightness of how hard you're holding. It feels so good, and it opens you up to wanting to try trusting again. That there's this collective emotional support. I don't have to do it all the time. That's what spirituality does for me, and it feels so good when I can let myself enjoy it.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off, right? The pressure to do it all on our own, and the pressure to always be in motion and take action, really in the masculine energy, right, of the doing. For me, spirituality is challenging me right now in such a good way to tap into the divine feminine more, to tap into my feminine energy, my feminine power, really learning how to lean in to letting go and being a human being rather than a human doing, allowing the magic of the universe to kind of sprinkle little winks here and there and illuminate my path for me, rather than me feeling this pressure of I need to make it happen. I need to do X, Y, and Z. I don't even know how to get there. For me, it's very clear of my life's vision and purpose. It's not crystal clear, but in a coaching engagement, and we've revealed this meditation before, this is the most powerful visualization I've ever personally done, and my clients give me consistent feedback. It brings out a lot of intense emotions that ultimately allow you to really see who you are, to greet your higher self. The visualization I'm talking about, we've done it for each other.
I do. It's meeting your future self.
It's so powerful, and it allows you the space to see what's possible for you and to cultivate a sense of inner knowingness without the how.
And it all coalesces into a form that is you, not you now, but it builds the trust that that is who you will be. And having something that concrete helps you set your path.
If I had a favorite session with clients, that's my favorite session, just because of the transformation truly starts there in that session. Once they've gone through the future self visualization, it's like go time in a way. In your heart and your soul starts to get that kind of tingly feeling of like, ooh, what is possible and what do I actually want?
It's an energy shift. You're right. I never thought of it that way before. It's an energy shift from the unsettled energy. All those little energy molecules that were buzzing are now forming a beam, and the beam is pointing in a direction, and it seems so clear because the energy beam is telling me this is where we need to go.
Spirituality really has allowed me to cultivate my intuition to its, I won't say highest power, but it's freaky in a really good way. I know we've done one episode on fear versus intuition, which was really fun to do. Spirituality has allowed me to really cultivate my sense of intuition and to try to go with the flow more. Once you cultivate a little bit of intuition, of quieting the mind, following what is guiding you, what is unseen, what you don't know, but you can tap into and feel, the more you tap in, the stronger it gets. That's the beauty of it. It's a snowball effect.
The trust it takes to start to tap in is the biggest hurdle in the process. In my experience, being willing to open the mental door to trusting my own intuition, but as soon as I accepted trusting those feelings, the universe started giving me feedback that I was doing the right thing. And then trust got easier and easier because I was getting positive feedback saying, yes, you interpreted this correctly. Yes, big girl, you go. And then each subsequent time that my intuition was telling me something and I tried to disregard it, saying, well, but I don't know that makes the most sense, or I don't know. And I just thought,
yes,
wait, the last time I listened, it was right and I was glad. So I'm going to try it again. And then the next time when you get rewarded and you're like, oh, thank goodness I listened. Then the next time it's easier to trust. So the hardest trust is the first. Like the first cut is the deepest. The hardest trust is the
I was just about to sing it. The first trust is the hardest. No, totally. So where I'm at now is I get like visitations from animals, like almost daily. It's wild. The most spiritual animals I've been seeing for about 7 months now. Cardinals. Do you remember when I called you in the dead of winter? We're on the phone.
It's outside your window.
I look out the window.
I remember.
Immediate. It was so wild. And then I'm in the backyard a few days later and I was going through a really dark time living at home, taking care of my sick mother. It was just a lot of grief and darkness. And there those birds were, popping up at random times in the dead of winter to say, hey, you're on the right path. You're divinely supported. You're guided. It's okay. Then I began to see, well, this has been for about 2 years now, angel numbers.
Yes.
So these are repeating patterns of repeating number sequences. And now I see them all. Before it started with 1111, it's nonstop. Like 222, 333, 444. So I would just look, glance, and smile and kind of get that, okay, I'm not alone.
Right. That one was for me.
Yeah, thank you, angels.
I saw it. I got it.
And then it started to get to the point where I was like, okay, what are they trying to say? Like, how do I decipher this communication? Like, what is going on here? So that's been kind of an interesting journey, researching that. And then recently I've actually created my own decoding of those universal messages. I've been experimenting. This is what 1111 means to me. For example, 444 means stop overthinking. You are loved. 777 means, go into solitude. So all of these signs and symbols, once you get to that point, are just little angel winks that are giving you the nod you're on your way. And what spirituality can do for you is remind you that you don't need to know the how or the when. So once you get clear on what you want, envisioning in your dreams, like, we don't need to really figure it all out, which kind of is beautiful and is blind trust, right? So on that note, I'd love to dive into a little bit on manifestation.
We would love to have you dive into manifestation.
Okay. It's a favorite topic of mine. I'm sure as a listener, if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably come across the buzzword manifestation, or maybe even the cluster buzzwords of law of attraction. We did a full episode on this, and if you want a full episode on it, we are happy to deliver that. But just to briefly touch upon it, since we're talking about the energetics of spirituality, letting go, trust, all these things, and visioning, right? So once you've gotten clear on what exactly it is you want, the first step actually is to let it go. To be okay with not having it, to sort of dissolve the wanting energy. The energetic frequency of wanting something is on the same plane as lack energy. Whereas in the opposite sense of it, it would be abundance and desire and gratitude. So like literally tapping into the energetic frequency of already having it. So you want that dream house, right? Instead of wanting it, you're going to be grateful for it. Having that inner knowing that it's on its way, even if you have no idea. You don't have the finances, you don't know how, you don't know when, but you know it's yours. That is a really cool step. And then letting go, just like being okay with it not being in your current reality.
Which is fine when you know with such certainty that it is yours. It is coming. You don't know if it's going to be in 1 minute or 1 week or 1 decade, but when you feel inside that knowing that it will be yours, it is yours, it's just not with you yet, then you can go from wishing, hoping, wanting, which does come from the place of lack, of jealousy. It exists, someone else has it, but not me, to basically the polar, as you said, opposite end of the spectrum of gratitude. Like, I am so glad that is mine. That is for me. And you're not even faking it because it is yours.
It's yours already in some other dimension.
Right. At some point in your life, it is yours.
So we've talked a little bit about like the principles of spirituality in our personal lives. How can you cultivate it? Like, how can you actually begin to develop your spiritual self? And again, like, this is going to look completely different for you than it looks for us. But what we can do is share some ideas, some concepts, and personal experiences of what we've used to cultivate it. I think just speaking to the beautiful gifts that our spirituality practices have given us hopefully excites you for the possibilities for your life. But before we dive in, we do want to make an important note that we probably should have made in the beginning, but here we are. Spirituality is not the same thing as being religious. So your religion can be a component of your spirituality, but having an affiliation to a specific religion is not a requirement of living a spiritual existence in this lifetime.
Thank you for saying that. That is a really important distinction, and I think it can be a hang-up, a point where people get confused, and they're like, but I'm not religious. I didn't grow up religious. Not necessary.
Mm-hmm. I think so. For starters, developing your spiritual self. I think for me, the biggest game changer has been solitude. Like really being alone, being with yourself. For me, I'll get my hands working on something like a project, like painting or drawing or whatever. And you don't even have to be good at it. I'm not even good at it. But for whatever reason, it takes me into this, the creative self I find to be the closest thing to a higher dimension or to your higher self or to being spiritual. I think everyone is creative. And I've heard people say, oh, I'm just not creative. That is not true. You are a creative being. And so whatever you can do, you've said it, Kit, and it's not true. You are creative. I think it's just about redefining it.
I'm creative. I'm not artistic. Am I getting into semantics here?
I feel like kind of. We're all artists.
All right. What I'm hearing you saying is in the two prongs, I'll call them for lack of a better terminology, is the self-actualization component. That's a better word. Components of spirituality. The self-actualization component and the self-transcendence component. Self-actualization doesn't have to be done in solitude, but I think the quiet and peacefulness of alone time to go inside yourself can facilitate self-actualization. And then once you're kind of in a more confident spot or in a more clear spot of who you are and who you are growing into, that's when the self-transcendence portion can come into play, and you can grow your spiritual side in community with others more easily. This topic is so hard because there is no right or wrong way to do it. So we're kind of talking what works best for most people. So to not be accidentally influenced by others, which as humans like we are, somebody says, oh, I tried this worked really well. And then you get fixated on it. You're like, cool, that sounds awesome. That's what I want. I'm going to do those same steps and I'm going to get to that same place. And like, no, obviously it never works out that way. Fostering your spirituality does not need to be done in solitude. Often, if you start in solitude, then you can better tap into yourself and just yourself. You can build it in community once you know what your path is.
I think a fundamental practice of cultivating spirituality is gratitude. So it doesn't matter who you are stating this gratitude to, whether it's God, whether it's the universe, whatever religion you belong to, or maybe you're an atheist. The expression of gratitude puts us in such a high frequency vibe that you begin to attract really good things, and you begin to be able to see the little synchronicities and the magic in your day-to-day life. I think cultivating gratitude is probably the single-handed most fundamental practice when it comes to spirituality. That could look like prayer. That could look like a journal. That could look like brain dumping bullet points. That could look like a morning just jotting down in your phone a bullet list of things that you really are grateful for, because it starts to begin to expand into other areas of your life. And that's where the magic happens.
It can even be as simple as an awareness and a feeling inside yourself that you are lucky. You are fortunate to be you. You are lucky to have your life. No one else gets to be you. No one else has the good fortune of living life as you. Only you do. And that is worthy of gratitude.
Yeah, I think when it comes to living soulfully, it's just about recognizing what makes you you, and the things and the activities and the people that truly bring you joy. I feel like joy, this is going to sound kind of depressing, but I feel like joy is hard to come by. And as adults, we really need to put intentionality behind cultivating it. But when you feel it, you know what it is. And that's what makes it special and unique, those sparks of joy. So I think finding and reflecting what brings you joy is really going to go a long way. I'll give a quick example. Last weekend, JC and I did a sip and paint. I've always wanted to do one of these things, and the opportunity came, and I was so excited, and he did it with me. He even had fun, which I knew he was doing it just for me because I find that I've always wanted to do it. We went to dinner afterwards. I was buzzing, Kit. Like, I was on cloud nine. I don't know. I was at a steakhouse. I was like, am I just really excited about this dinner? Like, I love steak. Like, and I began to reflect, and I was like, I think I'm just buzzing off doing that sip and paint with my love and experiencing this really fun, relaxing activity that was just like, there was no purpose other than to just enjoy it.
It was like all your little happy energies humming around inside you all had a shot of adrenaline and were just buzzing like they could barely stay inside. They were taking up so much space buzzing around. Like, we are fully happiness activated.
I love that visualization. So then I took that little data point, and then a few days ago, I just found myself to be bored, right? And just feeling off and weird. And I was like, I'm just going to go like paint. And I could feel myself really gravitating towards color. Like, I needed to use color, and I didn't have an extra canvas. So I grabbed an old pair of white Vans that were kind of stained after going through the wash and just started painting. And you guys, I put on music that transcended me. This vocalist, Renee Raps, just sent me. I'm painting, I'm crying, I'm releasing all these emotions I had no idea I needed to release. But so for me, that's all I can really speak to is spirituality. I had all of the components. I had solitude, creative expression, music. And there I was. I journaled a ton after that. And a lot came out that wouldn't have come out unless I had just created a little bit of space. And I think that's my last tool I'll throw out there is journaling just really takes this to the next level. And it just can be a brain dump.
What I'm hearing you say is that by tapping into your spirituality, you were able to expunge emotional toxins.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were ready for a cleanse. There was an awareness inside you, if not consciously, that there were some emotional toxins that you were finished with and they needed to be released and just let out.
Okay, love that visual. Yeah, that's a great way to describe it, for sure.
That's exactly what tending to your spiritual self allows to happen.
Mm-hmm. It's about like softening and putting intentionality behind it and just allowing yourself to be okay with the unknown, which is really hard, especially when we're feeling particularly anxious.
We put together 7 questions that we're not going to read here. We're going to put them in the show notes to this episode. You can use these in whatever way serves you. If you just want to read each one and think about it in your own head, if you want to pick one a day and journal, they're questions to allow you to personalize everything we talked about today so that you can tend to your spiritual self. Nurturing and strengthening your spirit allows you to persevere in the face of difficulty and to overcome life's obstacles. Spirituality creates a sense of peace and grace that can aid you on your wellness journey and throughout life, no matter what you believe in. Spiritual wellness provides a lifelong foundation in which we're all able to be successful in 3 key areas of humanity: embracing others, promoting service, and building community.
Thank you so much for listening and for spending another week with us. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend. Till next week, peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light.
Hi, beautiful humans. We wanted to take a brief moment to make you aware of something important that you can do if you'd like to help out our podcast and potentially get some school credit for. We are looking for a temporary social media intern to help us create short-form videos for Soulfull Wellness. Please send us an email at sfowpodcast@gmail.com for more details if you're interested.
The Soulfull Wellness hosts are certified health and wellness coaches. This podcast is intended to inform and entertain listeners on their wellness journey. This podcast is meant to enhance, not replace, listeners' care from doctors, therapists, or other medical providers.